Introducing now on my show, on my line, we have Vanessa Delaine joining me on my show. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me on today's show.
My pleasure.
It's great to have you on. Now, you are a singer-songwriter and you've had considerable success, a great catalogue as well, and wanted to just talk about your new music, really. At the status quo at the moment, I believe you got a new album out called Invisible.
I've got a new single called Invisible. We are in the
Okay.
process of recording my new album, which will be my sixth and also my seventh album. So they're in the process. Invisible will be one of the songs on it, but it's the first song I've actually released from the new album that's coming out.
Great. And is this one of your standout tracks? Was it quite hard to pick the first single release from the album?
Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, I one of the things I took on in the last 12 months was I actually did a songwriting challenge and I wrote over 100 songs. So,
Yes.
of that 100 songs, we've actually managed to get it in the studio and record about 11 of them so far, with another 11 earmarked to start. Um, so you can imagine, yes, if you've got 100 songs, it's very hard to decide which one's go on the album. So yeah, Invisible just sort of jumped out at me. Really, I had no idea this was going to be the first single that I'd release. I always thought there was something very important about what the song is written about. That it was really important that it got heard. Um, but yeah, so I'm very excited about the whole thing because it's all new music, and I feel like I've taken my skill and my songwriting to a whole new level, and that's very exciting.
Fantastic. Writing 100 songs, you could say you've hit the century. So that's an achievement in
Ah,
itself.
yes.
By the sounds of it, it seems like you put a lot of work into this as well. Listening to Invisible as well, you've got a great tone to your voice as well. Very calming, relaxing.
Thank you. Yes. I think my voice is quite distinct, really. When you start to listen to my other stuff, you can definitely tell that it's all me.
And I just wanted to touch on your other songs as well. I like your Moon Blues as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that was what do they call it? They call it a oh, I forget the word now, but a kind of out of the blue one that you out of the box kind of one you don't
Hmm.
expect.
Hmm.
Because as you might know from the background of that song, I wrote it over 25 years ago, and so it sat in the drawer for a very long time before it even got considered for an album, and it was a last moment consideration. And then, of course, it went on to win massive amount of awards, and everybody seems to absolutely love it. So it's just been an exciting adventure with
Yeah.
that song.
Well, the Moon Blues, so would that take you to like 1998, 1999? It really sounds like still a modern song.
Yeah, we recorded it in 2015.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
So,
we recorded no 2015. We recorded it, originally recorded in 1996, but I didn't like what we did in the studio, and I just felt like that it wasn't impeccable enough. So I suppose we would say re-recorded in 1995. So the version of from 1990, sorry, 2017, the version from 2017 is the one that everybody gets to hear.
and so that was the Moon Blues. Another song I wanted to touch on was One Girl Band. That's had a remastering as well.
Yeah, well, the thing about COVID was that we were kind of at home and trying to work out what we're going to do with ourselves, and it was quite uncanny how that album even came to be remastered, and that a song called Wild Child that I released only simply because one radio presenter in Australia played it every single time I tuned into his show. And I thought he loves this song so much. Maybe I should just release it as a single. So I did. And it went down so well that I went, wow, if everybody really likes story songs so much, maybe I should re release my One Girl 25 Years album, like my original album. And funnily enough, because of COVID, my old producer was actually still around and painstakingly remastered all the songs. He actually extracted all of them from an old DAT, which is a digital format of recording. Um, and we actually released an album that was like a double album because it had bonus tracks which had actually been extracted from a cassette tape. It was the only copies of those songs that we still had in existence. So that was a really quite exciting to release that during the pandemic and have people just fall in love with the songs straight away. So amazing, really. I'd written them so long ago, and
And
everybody could
yeah,
get them. Yeah.
looking at your catalogue, quite extensive in a way. So I've just cherry picked like the ones which stood out for me. Deja Vu as well. That's an intriguing title. Have you ever been in that predicament? You know, the feeling of being somewhere before, or that scenario.
Yeah, it's a very cool song, isn't it? Yeah, I'm quite fascinated by serendipity and all those sort of things, and it always is really good stuff to put into songs because I think other people don't necessarily talk about it, but they know the feeling. Again, that was a song I wrote in 1996, and we just had a lot of fun performing it, doing live gigs here in Australia. So we went, oh, we have to get this song on an album. So yeah, it ended up on my last album, Standing in Line.
Real. And I found out that songwriting has got you through some challenging times.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's as a child I used to keep a diary until my mum and my sister read it, and then I decided that songwriting was better because you could say anything you wanted and people didn't necessarily have to know exactly what you're talking about. And so it became much better than journal writing.
And when you're singing or performing or recording your song, what would you like the listener to take from your songs? Do you want them to feel the authenticity you're trying to portray?
Yes, I think that for me it is about the deeper meaning. It's not just, hey, she's got a pretty voice. It's like there's some realness in here. This person is dealing with stuff that people don't talk about always, like if it's grief or if it's getting over a relationship or whatever it is. I feel like there's so much that people can hear someone else understands
Mm.
and has been there.
It's from the heart as well.
Yes, yes.
Who have you been your musical inspirations over the years? I know some, the typical country artists like, Shania Twain or Sheryl Crow or even Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, I often get compared to Olivia Newton-John. Because I did grow up singing Olivia's stuff when I was a child. I mean, obviously I've been performing since childhood. And I think what I found was there weren't too many women singers that had particularly interesting songs. I think the songs that were the most interesting songs growing up were actually the ones that, like people like Merle Haggard wrote and stuff like that, that had so much more soul and story to them and stuff like that. So I was always much more attracted to the songs that men sang than women. But if I was to say over the few decades, um, obviously when Shania Twain came along, she was something completely different to everybody else. When Garth Brooks came along, he was something different to everybody else. And it's almost like every decade I can say an artist who I feel evolved music. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they weren't necessarily country, but they were someone whose impact on the world was, without them, it wouldn't be the same.
And with country music, there's so many umbrellas of it: country rock, country pop, classic country. How important it is to keep country going through generations and the next one?
Wow, that's such an interesting question. Well, country music, for a start, has evolved so much, even in my lifetime, from stuff that my dad introduced me to when I was a kid to now. I think that whole essence of storytelling and allowing people to feel that someone else knows who they are is so important. And I don't know that pop music always goes that deep to allow people to see that. So I feel like we may not be singing about growing farms or cows or, livestock as much about country life. We're probably more still singing about life. And so it is about that life and living and being a human being that you're keeping alive. That's what people want to tap into. And I think the beautiful thing about, being able to evolve your music from country and make it maybe a little bit of funky or a little bit of folk or a little bit of pop, you're still keeping the essence of what you're trying to communicate, but you're just allowing the music to grow and evolve.
Mm.
So I think country music will always be around, but and people really want to they want to hear themselves in songs and know someone else gets their story.
What's the feeling like when you've done the finished project, the final project or the final product, and it's on all the streaming platforms, it's all released? What's that feeling like to know your music's finally out there somewhere?
It's amazing. It's such like I say it's amazing, but for me, probably where I see the thrill the most is when I see radio presenters fighting over who's going to play my songs first. At a radio station, like our local radio station, for example, a whole bunch of radio presenters came along to my last album launch, and it was like everybody had dibs on which songs they were playing first. And so I'm sure the listeners were like, oh, wow, we're really enjoying this album because they're getting the whole thing through all the different radio presenters that had their shows. So it's not just about knowing. I mean, it's amazing. Someone in France can hear my songs, or where you are in the UK,
Hmm.
someone can hear my music over there. When I first released my Runaway album, that was the first thing that I got when one of my songs, Moon Blues, charted. No, the whole album charted in places around the world that I was like, holy moly, I don't even know that they would listen to my stuff. But I suddenly realized the world was a smaller place, but also there was nothing to stop it from being anywhere in the world. And I think that was just what really became an amazing thing at that moment, because it wasn't just people who I was singing to at the gig last night or at my local radio station. It was everybody around the world has access to this now. Um, yeah, it's just really awesome time to be a musician and um, know that you can get heard everywhere.
Hmm. I know there's so many different radio stations out there, internet radio, hospital radio, then the commercial radio. Commercial radio obviously has a monopoly on the market, but it just doesn't hit the niches, like internet radio does.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people sort of they can already predict what they're going to hear when they turn the station on. The ones they heard yesterday, they're probably going to hear those same songs again today on the commercial.
Sure. And just looking on your playlist as well, people who listen to your music also like the Sunny Cowgirls, Troy Daly. I'm not sure if you heard of them before, but
Yes.
you're up there with those artists who playlist your music.
Thank you. Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? Got some amazing talent in Australia, and it's wonderful being part of a thriving music industry. And everybody has such a unique voice, you could say, and what they bring. Like, I can't say that I'm anything like either of those two artists, but I would sit there and listen to their stuff just because it is so interesting and there's something so beautiful to be heard.
It's nice to be on a playlist though, where their song's just played and then yours comes on after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, Vanessa, thanks for taking time out to speak to me today. I think that's all I wanted to ask for now. I'm going to play one of your new singles now on my show. I think it's Invisible. That's the one I've got. Would you like to introduce it on?
Absolutely.
Or
Hi, I'm
yours?
Vanessa Delaine. Hi, I'm Vanessa Delaine, and you are listening to my brand new single, Invisible.
It was really nice speaking with you today, Vanessa Delaine, on my show.
Thank you.